Hello, everybody. Welcome to the special edition of Turkish Philanthropy Fund's Voices of Partners. My name is Didem Altop, and today we're actually doing a deep dive into what's happening on the field in Turkey, in the southeastern portion of Turkey, with the earthquake that has affected at least 12 cities and then the regions around that area, all the way down into Syria as well. Turkish Philanthropy Fund has done a wonderful, remarkable job in mobilizing resources from the United States to re-grant to organizations in Turkey for this relief effort. Actually, I'm calling it the relief effort, but that's just the big picture, because in the beginning it was a rescue effort, then it became a relief effort, and then probably the next phase is going to be a recovery effort. So this is a long-standing, ongoing activity. Today, we have some of the most active players on the field, and literally so inspiring, because it's not just them and their expertise, but it's the amount of volunteer resources and in-kind contributions and other things that they've been able to mobilize. It's just fascinating to watch, inspiring to see. And, in a really, really scary time, it actually, looking for the helpers like these organizations makes all the difference in the world. So it really is my pleasure to introduce today with the community volunteers, Gönüllüler Vakfı, Ayşe, Kırımlı. And then the NeedsMap, we hear a lot about you guys because you're also a resource for so many other organizations. We have Esra, Arslan, Unvansız Gönüllüler Association. I love your name. Untitled volunteers. It's so humble, but so important. Onur Topcu, who's the founder and chairman of that organization. And then Support to Life, Hayata Destek, one of the oldest organizations among our team. We've relied on you over the years for so many things. Sema, Genel, Karaosmanoğlu. Thank you all for being with us today. There's so much to talk about. So, we want to make the best use of our time, and everybody's so curious about what's happening on the field. So I'm going to do really quick tours, if that's okay with everybody. But the first tour I'd like to make is actually just to really quickly get an understanding of what your organization's purpose for existence is in normal times, because other than NeedsMap, most of you guys are not necessarily humanitarian relief organizations, right? You've actually developed that skill, that muscle in response to needs, but your reason for existence may be broader. So let's start with Ayşe. Can you talk a little bit about the Community Volunteers Foundation, Gönüllüler Vakfı?
Sure, it's my pleasure. Gönüllüler Vakfı actually since 2002 try to create an awareness among the university students about the concept of social responsibility. So we encourage young people to create solutions for the social problems. And because of that, we support their projects about the solutions for the problems and provides some training, social responsibility trainings, project creating trainings to university students in all over the world. We work nearly more than 150 different talk groups, we call them, like university clubs, and we work with them almost in 81 cities.
It's fascinating. I mean, just being able to enable the young people with their energy and their imagination to help build the kind of world that they want to live in is really inspiring unto itself. And I know that resource has been amazing for also disaster efforts. We'll get back to that in a moment. Esra, NeedsMap, ihtiyaç haritası, you guys came into the field a few years ago, actually, but you've made such an impact in such a short period of time. And really, you're leveraging technology. You're doing all these really cool things because of technology that maybe wasn't available to us, a few 10 years ago. Now with technology, you're able to serve a whole different need. Can you talk a little bit about NeedsMap and what you're doing in your normal life?
Yeah, sure. Actually, it's not really different because it's all about coordinating, giving it effective coordination for needs and supports. NeedsMap is actually the pioneer social cooperative in Turkey, a non-profit one, which is also a digital platform, a platform cooperative that brings together the people in need and the people, institutions, or companies who want to support, actually. So it is technology used for good, we may say. We are using technology actually to coordinate humanitarian aid, but with our infrastructure, we are also able to serve the local authorities plus NGOs who are trying to do social good on the field. So therefore, it's a platform, it's a cooperative, but it's also a very strong force that brings all the social good actors together and gives technology service to those actors on the field as well.
I mean, being data driven, we're always trying to talk about impact needs. We're really, what are the real needs? How do we understand what those needs are? Are we doing the right thing at the right time? And I think that NeedsMap has really made a tremendous impact in that arena, being able to be so effective and transparent in collecting data and sharing it with the right organizations. So thank you for your work. Onur, let's talk about Unvansız Gönüllüler. You guys are also a volunteer organization. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Yes, hello again. First of all, thank you very much to TPF team, to you for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Onur, I am founder and the president of the Unvansız Gönüllüler Association. The Unvansız Gönüllüler focused to two main topics generally. One of them disaster, the other one the poverty. Regarding disaster, we are members of the disaster platform. The Turkish means the Afet platform. We do all our work together with the disaster platform and our partners. Regarding the poverty topic, we manage a food bank in Tekirdağ, Turkey, and we do this together with the local government in our market, where hundreds of families in need benefit every month with the food bank. In addition, we are a partner of the TPF. We have signed many projects together for more than 2 years, and we continue still. We are happy to cooperate with the TPF. That's me and my team.
Wonderful. I mean, between the two of your organizations, the Community Volunteers Foundation, which is targeting university youth, and then Unvansız Gönüllüler, which is targeting local citizens, actually, citizen engagement, citizen activism. It's really wonderful that there are these homes, these venues that can help channel such valuable resources of, the human effort. Sonuçta, it's wonderful. And Sema, Hayata Destek Vakfı, Support to Life. Can we learn a little bit more about your organization?
Sure, Didem. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Hatay. I'm currently in the field, and I am with you from our workspace in the field. We have our warehouse just nearby. So as Support to Life, we have been operational since 2005. So we're around now for 18 years. And we are actually a humanitarian organization, Didem, because we work with disaster-affected populations. That's our mission and our mandate. And we talk about disasters. We often think of natural disasters, but war and conflict actually creates more humanitarian needs. So our biggest program has actually been our refugee support program. So since the war in Syria, we've had a lot of refugees coming into Turkey. So we've been providing aid in a number of different sectors, providing food aid, shelter assistance, all sorts of in-kind needs, protection, psychosocial support, and also livelihoods. And we were working quite a bit on livelihoods. But now, of course, with the earthquake, I feel like we're back to square one, because this is an area that was actually quite highly populated with refugees, and an area where we were actually quite active. We had offices and we had teams in all the affected provinces. So we're actually affected ourselves, and it has taken us a bit of time to recover. But here we are, and we're continuing to work on the ground.
That's true. I mean, you have such expansive networks. I hope all of your loved ones, friends, family, colleagues are safe and sound. And if you've had some tragedies, may Godspeed with all of them. I mean, it's not easy. It's not an easy time, actually, for any of us. So the Turkish Philanthropy Fund has been doing a wonderful job mobilizing global resources, mostly from the United States, actually, to re-grant to partner and non-partner organizations in Turkey who are delivering disaster relief and humanitarian aid. They have a current goal of, I think, $12.5 million to raise, which they're almost at. They're past the 11 million mark, as far as I know. And up until now, within just 1 month, they've already granted almost $6 million worth of grants. And some of those grants have come to your organizations as partner organizations with the Turkish Philanthropy Fund. So it's been a really interesting time for all of us. It would be really, I think, useful for context purposes if we could do another tour to talk about what you're seeing on the field. Like, what was the original urgent need? How has the need evolved right now in terms of, there was the rescue need, now there's the relief need, and then tomorrow there's going to be the recovery need. So maybe we could do another conversation about how you're collecting data, how you're working on the field, and then we'll go through some of your projects. And I'll start with Ayşe again in terms of Gönüllüler. What is it that what was your initial response? What did you initially see, obviously? How did you respond, and what future needs are you seeing?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that for the last 25 years or so, people in Turkey battle with disasters on an ongoing basis, mainly about the earthquakes. And our story, our cooperation with TPF actually dates back to 2008. Since then, we are working together. When we got the news on 6th of February, we took the responsibility of coordinating the volunteers of the disaster platform. As Onur mentioned, we also are one of the members of the disaster platform. And immediately we came together and we took the responsibility of coordinating all the volunteers of the participants in this platform. We made a call and we received nearly 60,000 answers who are saying that, yes, we would like to go to the region. This is amazing. And it happened in 2 days. In 2 days, we collected 60,000 volunteers. And just after that, we sent nearly 4,000 of them to the region, mainly to Gaziantep, Hatay, Adıyaman, and Kahramanmaraş. They directly went to the 8 depots actually in these regions, and they supported all these unloading the trucks, collecting all the aids in the depots, organizing the special areas for different types of products. And they started to work there for nearly 24 hours. This was our first action. Then, in parallel to this, we started to collect emergency coded materials from different donors, and we directly sent them to these 8 depots. Our volunteers received them and coordinate all the processes about these materials. And by their helps, we sent them to the victims in the region.
That's amazing. I mean, the fact that you can mobilize 60,000 people in 48 hours, be able to leverage 4,000 people in 24 hours, it's fascinating. And, again, a lot of this has to do with your reach and your trust in your organization, obviously, and also systems that you guys have been establishing. So maybe Esra can talk a little bit about that too, because I think that on the one hand, Gönüllüler is mobilizing people, you guys are mobilizing information. So maybe we can talk about your perspective, Esra.
That's right. They're doing a great job mobilizing our volunteers as well, and all the volunteers on the field. And we are, I won't repeat that part because we are already, the first thing we did was going to the warehouses, and we are all together with Gönüllüleri in those warehouses. We are still coordinating aids to people on the field, actually, in many different cities. But the thing we do the best is our ability, to coordinate those activities on the field. I mean, receiving the needs preparing the boxes actually with the support materials, and then giving them to people in need on the field. So we again used our technology. There we were supported by Meta and Insider. They helped us develop a chatbot actually, which is now being used by all the NGOs at the field to receive the needs, especially in Hatay and Adıyaman. We are receiving, people are submitting the needs through the chatbot, and then there is an AI working there. It's giving a route plus the needs as a list. We are sending it to the warehouses, and then the boxes are prepared during the night, and in the morning with the volunteers with vehicles, the boxes are being delivered to people. And in the last 10 days, I guess, the least number we have reached in a day is like 1,900 people at least. So this is on, I guess, Sundays, which we really, I mean, encourage our volunteers also have a little rest, but in business days, it goes up to 3,200 people actually a day. So we are still working with the chatbot. We are giving a call center, service. We are having call center support as well, but our volunteers, NeedsMap volunteers, are also working in the call center. Plus, we are in the process of, building 3 container cities in Hatay, Adıyaman, and Maraş at the moment. So we are also working on that, because our container cities won't be container cities with the most number of containers, but our cities will be caring about, this psychology to well-being and the socializing of people who will be living there. Actually, we are building neighborhoods for people to again stand by themselves, where they will be able to find psychological support, but also business ideas like entrepreneurship support, women friendly life, because a happy woman means a happy husband and a happy child, happy children. So we will be supporting women as well. So we will be having different social areas in the container cities to make those people not a community waiting for help, but a community who can stand for their lives again. So this is what we are working on at the moment, besides coordinating humanitarian aid, actually.
Great. We're going to come back to that in a minute, because I think that once the communities and neighborhoods are established, then different types of services and solutions are going to be on the agenda. We'll get to that too. Onur, would you like to comment too on your perspective, because you've been mobilizing also local volunteers? I think you're on mute.
Sorry for that. Yes. Actually, we had gone to area with the other disaster platform partners a few hours after the earthquake. And we were on the fight since the second day. As in Gönüllüler, we generally at Hatay warehouse, we have taken a more active role in the activities in Hatay generally. Today is, I'm not sure, 45 or 44th date of the earthquake. We have constantly experienced new and the different needs during the process, like food, hygiene, tents, etc. These needs still continue, actually. For example, after the second earthquake in Hatay 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure, almost all the houses were lived and let me say, the people started to go out on the street. For this reason, their housing problem suggests tent and containers. Let me see, according to our responsible, I will say the tents, containers, and foods are not the needed, I think, according to our responsibility. With the first day of the earthquake, a lot of hotels had that the open their doors to earthquake people. Now, but with March, unfortunately, they have started to how can I say, start to announce the departure days from the hotel. By the end of March, thousands of people will leave. I'm not sure will leave their hotels and need to leave accommodations.
That's true.
I think I think this problem will always remain on the agenda, our agenda in lockdown.
The hotels were a short-term temporary solution. That's true.
Exactly, because of the starting the season.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
they're
yes,
expecting that these
it will
communities.
be a very big problem for the accommodation.
Yeah.
In the medium term, though, there is no improved conditions of the earthquake, the people migrating to other cities. This is also a very important issue, I think. For example, we have a food banking. The thousands of earthquake people migrated to our city to Tekirdağ, for example. And we want to support these earthquake people. Hundreds of them apply to food banking every day. Every day, a lot of people come to here. For this reason, we must support not only those the living in earthquake zone, but also support needed to other cities like that.
Yeah. So disaster migration is an issue. People are migrating.
Exactly. Yeah, that's okay for me. For us.
So this goes then to Sema. So you've been working to build that region for a really long time as well. So what's going to happen actually? I mean, your perspective is really fascinating as well, since you've been on the ground for so long. You know, economic development in the region. How do we keep the community there vibrant, revitalized, phoenix rising from the ashes? And you know, we hear stories, right, about people who have left, who have visited family or gone to other cities when they could, but all of them have a desire, really. I mean, the majority of them have a desire to go back to their homes or to their communities. So it would be interesting to hear what you have to say.
Thanks, Didem. That's a really important point, actually, because as Support to Life, we have a community-based approach in the work that we do. We actually do more community-led work now. So we provide grants to community groups who have come together to identify their needs. They come up with solutions, and then they turn that into action, and we support them with micro grants. So that's definitely a very, very important one. And at times of crisis, when people are really, you know, in solidarity, and everyone is looking at helping each other out, it's really good to mobilize that energy, and really, you know, that community-based or the community-led approach makes a lot of sense at times of crisis. When we were already on the ground actually from day one, but we had teams coming in from Istanbul and also from neighboring provinces, from Diyarbakır, Mardin, Batman, Adana, Mersin. Colleagues, you know, rushed into the more heavily affected provinces to see what the immediate needs are, and how we can mobilize ourselves to be able to respond to the earthquake. And you know, our teams reported there's no water in the region, no running water, power cuts, and no fuel in the first days. So we thought we should really build our program to provide water, looking at a water supply, sanitation, and hygiene needs. And that's actually one of our biggest programs when we look at our overall response. So what we do is we have a lot of water tanks that we deliver mainly to informal settlements. There are lots of settlements now, both formal and informal, but the majority are informal, and they're spread out because people don't want to go too far from their homes. Even those that have been displaced, now they're looking at turning back, and they want to be close to their homes. So there are lots of informal settlements, and we provide the water tanks. We do water trucking. So we deliver, you know, tens of thousands of liters of water. We chlorinate the water. So we do make it usable, but drinkable as well. It's not the ideal, but you know, currently at the moment there's a lack of drinking water in the region. So we make that available, and then we have latrines, mobile latrines that we've been delivering to the different informal settlements. We've provided shower units. We actually have mobile laundry units as well. So we have these washing machines that go, you know, from one settlement to another. And it's helping with, you know, in terms of the hygiene standards that we need to be careful for, because there are risks of, you know, public health risks at a time of crisis when there's a lack of running water. So that's been our broadest program. But then we also provide both food and non-food items, because there's a constant need for supplies to come in. So we're doing quite a bit of that. Also, psychosocial support is a big program. We already had quite a big protection program where we were looking at access to services for refugees. So we have psychologists on the team. We have psychosocial workers who are providing psychosocial support. We have social workers. So that's, again, you know, quite a big component in our response. And we're looking at perhaps also providing cash, because, you know, cash has become a big thing in the humanitarian sector rather than providing in-kind aid. It's a more dignified way of providing assistance, but of course it's only available where the market is operational, is functional, and in the most heavily affected places it's still not functional. So outside the region, it's more of a support mechanism also for those who have left the region, but slowly we're hoping that as the market is up and running, then we'll be able to provide cash assistance as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned cash assistance. I got excited when you said that because I do believe it as well. You know, it's about self-determination and self-efficacy and everything. But again, the market has to be there. If there's no access to products and goods, then you still need to be able to figure out how to get those there and into the community as well. It seems really interesting the way that you're describing it, the informal communities and the formal communities, because, you know, when you're trying to deliver support somehow, it feels like you need to have people grouped in places. Otherwise, it's just everyone everywhere. So either you create a hub and a center of gravity for your services and people come to you, or you go to where there's a hub of people and you deliver services there. It's interesting what's going to happen. I would like to hear actually how you guys have been working with TPF. I know the gamut from TPF, some of the TPF grants have been for water all the way up to building a hospital, a mobile hospital unit. So maybe we could do another tour and you could talk a little bit about how you've been partnering with TPF, as well as, you know, how things are going to start changing in the next 3 months or the next year. I think that's going to be really interesting too. So maybe Ayşe, do you want to kick us off there?
Yes, first of all, let me start about how we cooperate with TPF and how we use the fund that we got from TPF in the short term. Actually, TPF was with us since the beginning of this earthquake. We got an amount and we immediately used this amount for obtaining the emergency coded materials, mainly the tents for the accommodation, because for the first 15 days, it was a huge problem. People were living in the streets, on the roads. It was very, very cold during those days. And we immediately bought nearly 200 tents and directly sent them to the region. Thank you for your support. It was very helpful, really. By this help, more than 1,000 people had the chance to actually keep themselves warm in a tent, at least. This is really something very important. We mentioned about what we did in the short term. In the medium term, actually, we are moving our volunteers from the warehouses towards the social markets in some regions. Social markets are the locations where the victims get their AIDS packs, let's say 8 boxes every week. in a constant basis. Actually, they do not pay anything for that, of course, but they are not going to the warehouses. That they directly go to the social markets. Volunteers are working at the social markets at the moment. This is what we are doing. Secondly, as you know, we are working with the university students, but unfortunately, universities were closed because of the earthquake, and in all over the country, they were closed. Therefore, students who are not going to the universities at their cities, they had to go back to their main cities, which means that we have to form new groups, new university groups, volunteer groups. So we formed the city communities. We call them city communities in almost each cities in the country. And we encourage them to create projects for the disaster area in these cities. This is the second thing that we are doing as a medium term. Together with that, we immediately form a disaster scholarship fund for the university students in the disaster area. Let me give you some figures about the students in these 11 cities. There are 4.5 million students between the age of 6 to 18, and there are 630,000 university students in the region. So as a whole, almost more than 5 million students we are talking about. These students are not going to school at the moment. They need education. And they need money for their education. So disaster fund, disaster scholarship fund is very important. We opened this fund and we are targeting 1,000 students immediately. We will give them 160,000 Turkish lira per month for the first year for 12 months. And then maybe we will continue for the second year as well. So we need a support for the disaster scholarship fund. And secondly, for the well-being of the location, not only physically, psychologically, economically, socially, we have to develop long-term projects. We as TOG created the project of support centers. Support centers are mainly for the students, for the primary students, high school students, and university students. In other words, for the children and young people. In these support centers, they will come and get some trainings. They will get some psychological support. They will join some social activities. Little children will join the play groups, and they will work with the young community volunteers team, and together with the psychologists, also experts who are mainly dealing with such type of activities. These support centers are very important in the region, and we have already started our first region in Kahramanmaraş last week, and we got really very positive feedbacks from the students and from their parents as well.
That's great progress. Very quickly, actually. It's only been 6 weeks, so if you've already started, that's a really good pilot, I think. Esra, I know that you guys have been actually with TPF for a really symbiotic relationship. I mean, you guys have done a real diversified type of relationship with them, probably because, you know, you're the center of information for needs, but everything ranging from water bottles all the way up to building a hospital. Could you talk a little bit about the projects you've done with TPF grants and what you see is how things are going to evolve in the near future? You're on mute. I'm so sorry.
I'm very sorry. We have been actually supported by TPF from the very first week. I guess we are one of the organizations that was in the first round funded by TPF. That was for the early response, actually, for basic needs on the field. It's very unfortunate that those basic needs are still needs on the field. So we have been being supported by TPF from water to food, I mean, to, you know, as you said, like hospital, a mobile hospital, to everything. And actually, it's not only being supported, but it's really nice to be able to brainstorm, you know, how to make those funds more effective on the field, and to be able to give and get ideas to make, I mean, greater social impact. That's the important part for us about TPF, actually. And now at the moment, what we will be doing is we are, besides the container cities, we will be establishing like 2 regional recovery and development centers, which we call them, in 2 cities, Adana and Antep, in coordination with the Chamber of Commerce's. And we'll be working on like psychosocial support, livelihoods programs, child protection and development, education, sheltering, of course, with our container cities, like business recovery and resilience for SMEs on those, because we have been from the very first day, we developed a local supply chain. From the very first day, we have been buying whatever we are purchasing, buying as support materials from the, you know, local businesses. That's what we do in every operation we do, actually. Normally, we will be working on, again, arts and culture, health, nutrition, agriculture, and plus social cohesion and internal migration. Of course, there will be processes because many people are being replaced. We have actually, for sheltering, started with, you know, one rent, one home. We activated that project with Izmir municipality, and for the ones who are willing to leave the cities, we provided homes rental support for more than 30,000 people at the moment. And for the ones who are willing to stay in the cities, as I said, we will be having, we call them actually local development centers, because our approach is like international social development approach. We are focused on social development as well, while doing some work on the field. And the container cities of NeedsMap will be NeedsMap neighborhoods, what we will call them. And we will be mobilizing people to run businesses, to run, you know, entrepreneurship programs. For example, we're gonna have a co-working kitchen for women, for them to be able to produce, and we're gonna have programs as well there. And plus, we have been recently assigned as the co-lead for early recovery by UNDP Turkey. So we will be having, you know, sectoral meetings, intersector meetings, plus we will be having assessments for the early recovery for like 3 to 6 months. And we will be sharing our techniques and strategies with other UN organizations to make them take action and be part of the early recovery period, actually. So on the way, we are still in cooperation with TPF. We are still sharing what we will be doing. So we will be, of course, asking for support, and I'm sure we're going to be supported on the way as well.
I'm sure that's a lot of muscles you're developing along the way. I mean, it's 360 degrees worth of services. Once the neighborhoods and the communities are established, I think it becomes a little bit more easier to be systematic about delivering services and making a sustainable impact. So it's going to be interesting to see. Onur, how about you guys? How are things going to change for you over the next 3 months?
Regarding the 3 months, with the great support of the TPF, as Gönüllüler, in 2 weeks that we have provided food support to 17,000 people. It was a great support to us. Thank you again, TPF. We have been on earthquake zone, as I said, with our disaster platform partners since the first day in here. But not only the disaster platform partners, in government, the private and NGO cooperation is very strong in here. For example, on warehouse and on the field. We coordinate very well by acting together. The partner relationship is very amazing, I think, it's my opinion. For example, in all determinations for us, we use the data of the NeedsMap, for example, because NeedsMap has the great system. We also work continuously with the community volunteers, Support Life, and other partners, of other disaster partners, both in the warehouse in the field. In the addition, with the new support of the TPF, we provide the tent support for more than 100 families within a week. There's a lot of migration from the city to village, and we are preparing to support the villagers dealing with the agricultures. We will coordinate it with the disaster platform partner, the World Human Relief Team, while distributing in the fire. They will always be cooperating with the local governments, for example. It was an example. In addition, we are planning to continue to support 1,000, how can I say that? Let me say, 1,000 of families with the food bank in Tekirdağ, in local. We will continue to support. We are looking forward to new funds from you. Thank you.
Oh, please, very soon. The food bank, I think, is a great system. I mean, being able to sustain that's going
exactly.
to be, and having that expertise, because this is going to be a long-term road to recovery, is going to be really interesting. Actually, I think if we can create that that mantra of the food bank and kind of establish it as a cultural kind of purpose, then it'll become really interesting as well. I'm also really impressed when you emphasized how much collaboration is happening between the NGOs and between the NGOs themselves and also the NGOs and government, and maybe even the private sector as well. So that's really impressive to hear. I think we need more of those success stories of those collaborations. It's really heartwarming when we see it happen. And when, I don't know, I always get personally really touched when one organization complements another organization. I think that is the type of energy that we need to move things forward. Sema, how are you doing? How was your relationship with TPF so far? What's going to happen next? And I mean, again, because you were in the region already, I felt your pain when you said, we went back to square one, because you had been doing so much work in building up the region up until now. And then now all of a sudden there's been a rewind. It would be interesting to see what you think actually about the road to recovery.
Sure, Didem. Well, because we were there on the ground from day one, for us, it was very important to get that support to whatever need we identify, to be able to have the funding to access and to deliver and to be able to cover those needs very, very quickly. And this for us is very precious, actually, TPF funding, because it's so quick and because it's so flexible. That really gave us a good head start. Because as Support to Life, we also work with institutional donors. We work with the UN, and they have a very slow system. Just today, we actually had visitors from USAID. And they were very impressed with the WASH projects we have, the water supply, sanitation, hygiene. And this we actually kicked off with TPF. So it was with TPF that we were able to get out the mobile latrines, our water tanks, the water trucking, and the shower units. And they were really impressed with what they saw. And it gave us the opportunity to show them, look, this is what we're doing already, and we can scale this up because there is so much need, and we're specifically covering this area and this need. So that's very valuable because in the initial days, it's important to get that help on the ground from day one. And I think that's very special.
I'm going to jump in just with a little anecdote, but I remember, because the board members, we review the recommendations of the team for the grants at some point, and we approve them all. And I remember the first time your organization had pitched sanitation, the grant for sanitation purposes, and all the board members were applauding that there were going to be bathroom solutions. It was a really big, important milestone, like being able to say, look, it's not just tents and it's not just water. These people need clean water. They need the bathrooms, hygiene, sanitation, all the environmental impact of everything. So it was a milestone moment when we were delivering the grants, I remember.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and like I said, the USAID team, especially with the mobile laundry unit, they were like, wow, we've never seen this before. This is so creative. But it was just a local solution. We had to come up with something to cover those needs, because people were talking about, we need underwear, we need clothing items, because they have limited amounts. And yes, one option is to bring more in, but they also need to be washed, right? So that was just an idea we came up with, and it was, for us, it was great to be able to show what's possible when we do have, quick funding coming in, and we can work on local solutions. So for the longer term, because that was something you asked as well, Didem, I would just want to touch on that. The community mobilizing and engaging the community is really, really crucial. And I think, TPF also has a lot of added value there. Because when we work with institutional grants, they're only, we work in boxes. This is the type of activity that donors are willing to fund, and they want to see quick results. So something like a community action plan is something that's not necessarily of much interest, because they want to know exactly what they're getting in exchange for the funding that they provide. But then with community projects, the ideas come out from the community, and it's there. It's the ownership is really high, and they do it, and it's an empowerment process as well. It's not just the result, but it's the process as well. So I think for TPF specifically, it would be interesting. Maybe we could even have like a separate funding scheme just for community-led interventions, and I think that's something you could probably be able to mobilize support for. So just as an idea.
Actually, that's really, you just triggered an idea for me too. So I want to make use of our time really effectively. I would like to do one final tour actually with your own words, call to action and words of inspiration, because this is a long road to recovery, but the stories of people coming together, making things happen, really manifesting the life and the communities that we want to have with dignity, with wellness, with holistic approaches, etc. It would be really interesting, again, to get your call to action and your maybe motivational, inspirational remarks as we go. But this time I'm going to turn it around and go from the end to the beginning. So Sema, could we start with you? You just made a really important point. Maybe you could reiterate that one as well, and we'll go backwards.
Yeah. Actually, yes, that's what I would like to repeat. Perhaps we really value what the community can do for themselves, and this is, like I said, an approach that we're looking more and more into. We were calling our approach a community-based approach, but now we call it a community-led approach, because we can actually do much more. When we take, when we invest the time and the resources and the energy to actually mobilize communities. Also, because as Support to Life, we're looking at how we can contribute to a more locally led response, because humanitarian action, or the humanitarian system, the formal system, has its own players. You have the United Nations, you have the INGOs coming in, you have the donors, and they come in with big funding. And it's only certain organizations that can actually, certain players that are able to operate within the system. But then there's so much work going on at the local level. I mean, we've been talking today in addition to communities mobilizing themselves, there's a local civil society that's been very, very active. Private sector has been, very much engaged in trying to cover some of the needs. Again, collaborating with the government. There's a lot of potential there, and I think we tend to miss out on what locally we can do, and how we can mobilize the local energy, the local infrastructure that's already there. So I think this is something that we should invest more in, and I think an organization like TPF would have real added value there.
So investing in community-led approaches as kind of a more robust way of supporting local development is really helpful. That's a great call to action. Onur, shall we continue with you? What would you like to say in terms of call to action or words of inspiration and motivation?
Actually, today we are projecting the support you have provided, that the the plan and the weak coordination. As you can hear, everybody can hear, the process is long, not short time. Support should continue for, I think, at the least 2 more years. There is so much to do. For this reason, we always need your support in the long run. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding us that we have to be patient and steadfast and resilient and keep going. But 2 years, for some, it seems like a short period of time. For others, if you're living in a tent, seems like a really long time, perhaps. So it's all about perspective. But 2 years is reasonable to say that it's really going to take some time to rebuild and to recover from the activities and hopefully reemerge even stronger than before. Esra, how about you? How are you? What's your call to action and your words of motivation and inspiration?
Actually, it wasn't easy, and it won't be easy. I mean, the long ahead is really, the road ahead is really long and it's bumpy. I mean, we know that, but whatever we cannot manage, we call it crisis. But I don't think this is just a crisis. We're going to have many crises. I mean, we had the early response. Now we have the early recovery. And then after people are settled in the container cities, we will have other crises. I mean, the most important thing is how we deal with those crises. I mean, the governance, the progressive governance approach will be very important. So we have seen that not only money matters, but the social capital is really important, because we had landed like 4 UN, airplanes in cooperation with our network worldwide. And we, brought like more than 5,000 tents actually in the early phase. So solidarity is not about only monetary donations, but also about loyalty and helping each other out. But the monetary donations will be important now in the recovery process and in the long time for development process. So we will be really needing support for a long time. I encourage people to support us, but I encourage them not to exhaust the individuals plus the corporates, institutions, not to exhaust themselves, because these have to be in coordination with the field, the donations, because it's really important to receive them periodically, that we can use them effectively on the field. This is very important. And I know together we can move the mountains. We are every time showing what we can do together. So we won't doubt ourselves. For recovery, we'll be on the field as NeedsMap like for an average of 2 years, but the development phase is gonna be like more than 5 years, it's for sure. We will be there, we won't forget, and we won't make people forget. This is my biggest wish, actually.
Fantastic. I love your mindfulness approach. We're gonna summarize that too. And Ayşe, can we hear from you as well?
Sure. We also believe that the recovery period will last more than 2 years in the region. And we as TOC really believe in the support centers, the help of support centers for the recovery period, mainly for social and psychological recovery. These centers are very important. We immediately spread out the numbers of this region in all the cities, in these 11 cities in the southeastern Anatolia. We mainly focus on the children and the youth, as well as the parents and the women, where they come, get socialized, get some trainings, participate some activities. And we believe that together with these centers, we will help the recovery of them. We believe that this region can be a phoenix, can rise out of these ashes by the collaboration and the solidarity of each party. By each party, I mean the private sector, public sector, and the NGOs. Our solidarity is very important, and this should be for the long-term basis. I don't mean 3 months, a year, or 2 years, more than actually 5 years. We need this solidarity. So we have to use our energies very economically and very cleverly. This is very important. Otherwise, we will get tired very quickly. So our competences are in very different fields. So if we come together as NGOs, as private sector, and as public sector, we will create really a beautiful phoenix out of these ashes. Thank you very much for this chance to us, explaining ourselves, and call to our donors who are always helping us, and thank to TPF.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's really wonderful to hear this emphasis on community-led activities. We're going to see that we're going to see the transition to community-led solutions and services. I think that the emphasis on 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, like having that horizon makes a big, big difference, because it's such a culturally, socially valuable, vibrant part of the country and the world in terms of history of the world itself. So it's a really beautiful civilization. The mindfulness approach to donors and supporters is also really important, that we should be in tempo. It's not about maximizing donations one day, but it's about optimizing them over the long term. And of course, the collaboration, you know, we're all going to need to develop so many different muscles, but we can't be everything. So we have to be able to plug and play with each other. And I think that's going to be actually quite inspiring to see. The more we see those partnerships and collaborations, and we can emphasize that. But from the field, you're saying that you're already feeling that solidarity. It's really nice to be able to report that to the outside world as well, that everyone knows that that's happening, that partnership, that collaboration, and that resilience is there. I would like to thank the Turkish Philanthropy Foundation team. They've been so amazing, and you underscored the fact that they've been turning around the grants and the application process really quickly. Literally, they're making miracles happen. They're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The board members as well are lending a helping hand. But I think that being nimble, and the fact that TPF can be a nimble donor and really be quick to respond to your needs as an NGO makes a big difference. Of course, institutional donors are going to take a longer time, a little bit more bureaucratic, etc. But these two things need to go hand in hand, probably, so that you have the runway. And so those other fundings come in, that you have this runway to get started, to pilot projects, etc. So for our donors and supporters out there, thank you so much for your attention and your compassion and your support. The TPF Earthquake Relief Fund at tpf.org, Turkiye Earthquake Relief Fund. You can see the link on our website. It's still open. It's still going strong. Right now, the goal is 12.5 million, I believe. Hopefully, we're going to be increasing that as well in the meantime. So thank you, everyone, for this special edition of Voices of Partners. May the road ahead be less bumpy than Esra thinks it's going to be. Road ahead be smooth sailing. I know it's going to be bumpy, but together we can get through it all. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And thank you to our donors and supporters.